The planet of Dravaris. 9 was nothing short of a living nightmare. Its surface, once thriving with life, had long since been corrupted by war and industrial exploitation. The skies were perpetually overcast with thick clouds, casting the world in a dim, melancholic haze. The land was barren, with toxic swamps and poisoned rivers, and the air tasted of sulfur and ash. For the people who lived here, if you could call them people, their existence was a constant struggle for survival. But it wasn't the land that had broken them. It was the greed of the elite who saw the planet as little more than a resource to be mined and discarded. Dravaris, 9 had become a slave world, where species from across the galaxy were captured, enslaved, and forced to work in the mines until they were no longer of use. And that's where she was. Lira, a young alien woman, had been brought to Dravaris 9 years ago. She was just another slave, forced to dig through the muck and sludge, her body stained with the dirt of the planet. Her skin, once vibrant and green, was now dulled, caked in mud and grime, a constant reminder of her captivity. She had lost all sense of time and hope. The people who worked beside her were just as broken, resigned to their fate. They had no names, no dreams, only the cruel demands of their masters to keep them going. Lira had become a shadow of herself. Her once proud posture had collapsed under the weight of her oppression, and her once bright eyes had dulled into emptiness. The mud that covered her body had become a part of her, a shield from the harsh world she inhabited. But she wasn't always like this. It was during one of the routine work shifts when the unexpected happened. The sound of boots crunching on the wet ground broke Lyra's focus. She had learned to ignore the footsteps of the guards, but this time, these footsteps were different. They were slow, deliberate, and filled with a purpose that made her heart skip. She looked up, her eyes instinctively squinting at the silhouette that approached. A man, a human. His name was Captain Elias Voss, a mercenary hired to oversee the workforces on Dravaris 9. He had seen hundreds of slaves like Lira, yet something in her caught his attention. Perhaps it was her eyes, dull but still capable of holding a flicker of life. Or perhaps it was the way she moved, as though every step she took was a reminder of her torment. Elias had been on this world for weeks, helping the mining consortium, ensuring that the work was done efficiently. He was used to dealing with tough situations, but nothing had prepared him for what he saw when he looked at Lira. A slave, broken beyond measure, caked in mud, her body a filthy canvas for the cruelty she had endured. He had seen many slaves, too many, in fact, but Lira was different. She wasn't just a slave. She was a person, someone who had once had dreams, a life, a future. But that was all gone now, replaced by the grime and exhaustion that had claimed her. He couldn't let this go on. Not like this. The next day, after the workers had been dismissed, Elias approached Lyra's cell. She sat huddled on the cold, damp floor, her body still coated in the filth of the day's work. The smell of the swamps outside clung to her, adding to the weight of her isolation. "Get up," Elias commanded, his voice firm but not unkind. Lyra's head snapped up, and for a moment, her dull eyes locked with his. She didn't move. She couldn't. She had been beaten into submission long ago, and the idea of anyone helping her was foreign. "Did you hear me?" Elias repeated, stepping closer. Lira, with her head hanging low, barely managed to lift herself off the floor. Her limbs were stiff from hours of work, and her entire body felt like it was made of lead. She wasn't sure why she was obeying him. She had never obeyed anyone before, certainly not with any form of hope. But there was something in his voice, something in the way he spoke to her, that made her stand. "Come," he said softly, offering her a hand. "I'm going to clean you up." Lyra's heart raced as she looked at him. her mind scrambling to understand. No one had ever spoken to her like this. No one had ever offered to help her. "No," she whispered, pulling away. "I don't need help. I'm not worth it." Elias's expression softened, and without hesitation, he stepped closer. "Everyone is worth it. Even you." He helped at her feet and led her to a small room where he had set up a basin of warm water and soap. At first, she resisted, but as he slowly and gently began to wash the grime from her skin, she felt a strange sense of relief, like she was being reborn. The dirt, the mud, the sweat of years of labor, all of it was being washed away, and with it a part of her old self was emerging. Elias was careful, almost reverent, as he worked. His hands moved with purpose, scrubbing her skin, but also tending to the wounds, both physical and emotional, that lay hidden beneath the surface. As he worked, he spoke softly to her. "You don't have to be this way," he said. "You are more than just a slave. You are a person, and you deserve more than this." Lira didn't know what to say. She had long since stopped believing in words. But somehow, Elias's words cut through the layers of dirt and despair that had surrounded her heart. When he was finished, he stepped back and looked at her. The woman before him was no longer a filthy, broken slave. She was a person, beautiful, strong, and alive in a way that she hadn't been in years. Lyra's hands trembled as she touched her own skin. It was smooth, soft, and for the first time in what felt like forever, she felt clean. She felt human again. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice shaky. Elias nodded, his eyes softening. "You're welcome." The days that followed were filled with small moments of change. Elias continued to help Lira, not just with her physical care, but with her spirit. He spoke to her, listened to her, and treated her like a person, something no one had done for so long. With each passing day, Lira began to remember who she was before the chains, before the dirt and grime. But the road of freedom was not easy. Elias knew that Lira's journey was far from over. She had been broken, and it would take time to rebuild her. But he was determined to help her. Together, they began to plan an escape from Dravaris, 9 and the life of servitude she had been forced to endure. The night they fled, Elias kept his promise. He took Lira by the hand and led her into the unknown. She was no longer the filthy, mud-covered slave that had once been left to rot. She was free, and for the first time in years, her future seemed full of possibility. And for Elias, the journey had changed him too. He had come to Dravaris, 9 to do a job, but he was leaving with something far more precious: the knowledge that one act of kindness could change a life forever.